Right now, Governor Peter Shumlin and Vermont emergency management officials are getting ready to hold a briefing following a train derailment in Northfield.
That's right. Amtrak says that the train was headed from St. Albans to Washington, D.C. when it struck a rock slide on the tracks, and that caused several cars to go over an embankment, sending 6 people to the emergency room. We're going to, let's go to the press conference now at Norwich University. There's Governor Shumlin.
For us to be able to clear away the tracks and rebuild them. New England Central Rail owns the line and is responsible for maintaining the line. The passengers, many passengers, told me to thank the Amtrak team, the hard-working crew on the train who have been extraordinary, as well as a deep thanks to the folks who responded. Our first responders, fire and EMC, the Orange County Sheriff's Department, Paul White and his team from Vermont State Police, Hazmat, everyone has done extraordinary work so far. Needless to say, as governor, I know I join Vermonters in expressing my relief that no one has died. We had a terrible train derailment back in 1984 where we did lose lives. We are hopeful that those that are receiving medical care right now will make speedy recoveries, and obviously we're hoping, our prayers are with all of them. We'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. I want to emphasize that, at least based upon the immediate knowledge that we have, there's no belief that there's any wrongdoing here. A freight train went through late last night. It passed without any incident, so the ledges had to have fallen in the last several hours. We all know that ledges can move. They can fall onto highways, they can fall onto rail tracks, but there's no reason to believe that this was a problem led to by poor track construction. This particular track was reconstructed when we received the ERA money several years ago to upgrade our train tracks. The speed limit in that area is 59 miles an hour. Many passengers said to me, I want you to know this was not an issue of conductor or someone driving too quickly. It was a matter of ledge that landed in the track, an act of nature, really beyond the control of anyone who was conducting the train or running the train or maintaining the tracks. So we'd be happy to take questions if you have them.
Salvage operation, the track will be closed for probably a few days. Walk us through that at all?
Sure. So what we're going to do is Amtrak will continue to run the Vermonter, but the Vermonter will go to Springfield, Massachusetts, and folks will be bused back and forth to Springfield, Mass. Until the tracks can be cleared and rebuilt. So that will be the procedure going forward.
Do you know the identity of the one who was transported to Dartmouth?
We do, but we're not going to comment on the identity of the person being transported to Dartmouth until their family members have been notified. As you can imagine, that's the person that we're most concerned about right now.
Is that a life-threatening injury potentially?
Well, you know, we're just not going to comment on their medical condition because we simply don't know. As you can imagine, they just got to Dartmouth 2.5 hours ago. They're in a great hospital. Our thoughts and prayers are with that individual, but we just don't have a medical assessment at this time.
How many of the
I'm not going to answer that because family hasn't been notified, and therefore I can't really comment on who it is.
Governor Shumlin, how many of the accident victims were airlifted out? How many were taken out by conventional ambulance?
One passenger was airlifted out. Everybody else was moved by ambulance to Central Vermont Hospital.
How frequently are tracks swept to
I'm going to let AOT or Joe answer that one. Who wants to take that? Dan? Identify yourself just for the record.
Hi, Dan DeLabriere from VTrans. I'm the rail director for VTrans. New England Central is responsible for doing their own maintenance on that set of track. It's privately owned. I don't know the exact maintenance schedule, but it's at least a couple times a week where they're going to run through with their inspection crews. But I don't have the data on when their last inspection was, but I do know that a freight train did go through there late last night, and there was no evidence of any ledge slide at that point.
Do you know what time this derailment took place?
Approximately 10:30. Don't have the exact moment, but approximately 10:30.
Did you know sort of the lay of the land? Is it right around a bend? Is there a straightaway? Could brakes have been applied? Do we know any of this yet?
If brakes had been applied, it's likely that that wouldn't have stopped you from hitting a ledge. So, you know, when you're traveling at 56, 57, 59 miles an hour, it takes a lot of space to stop a train moving at that speed. Having said that, it was a fairly steep area. If you talk to the passengers, they'll tell you that, you know, one of them said it was unbelievable. There were senior citizens literally bounding up this cliff that the cars fell down, and seemed to do it without any injuries or any hesitation whatsoever. So I got to say, my heart goes out to the passengers and the crew who went through this traumatic experience, and we're very, very lucky that there was no loss of life.
Do we know if brakes were applied, or
We simply don't know that yet.
And so, does an investigation get set off now?
We will, not only will we investigate the circumstance that led to this, but we'll also, as soon as we have that information, get it to you. But I just want to emphasize, there's no reason at this time to believe that there was any negligence on anyone's part. Obviously, we don't have all the details, but this track was rebuilt. It was a state-of-the-art track. Ledge slides happen. We take an awful lot of heat from the public when we start blasting ledge on the side of the highways. This is an example of why we do that. And where there's ledge, it can move.
Has there been blasting in that area recently?
Not to our knowledge.
Now, the total number of cars in the train was what, and how many of them left the track?
So 5 went down?
5 are off the track, with 2 that went over the side of the hill, along with
Right.
the engine. One engine and 1 passenger car are currently over the side of the hill.
So
A total of 5, including the
To-
locomotive?
Five passenger cars, correct?
Yes,
That's
5
correct.
passenger cars and
5 passengers plus the engine.
yes.
I'm sorry, what's the name of that river?
It is a brook. I don't know the
We
name
call that a
off.
brook in Vermont, but
Tributary of the Dog River.
Yeah,
it's a tributary of the Dog, now named the Amtrak Brook.
there you go.
Yeah, right. Is there anybody from Amtrak here right now?
They're on their way.
Can you clarify in the car, there were 5 cars and 1 locomotive, and the passengers told me that 2 of the locomotive and 1 car were in the brook.
That's correct.
That's correct.
So is the locomotive and the car immediately behind that went over the edge?
That's correct.
That's correct.
But
So
all of them derailed?
5 derailed, 2 landed in a brook. The engine, the locomotive, and 1 of the rail cars.
The one that's still on the track?
There was one still on the track.
No, there's more than 1 still on track.
Yes.
There's
Well,
several.
there's several.
There's 3 that are still on the track.
There's 3 that are upright that are just they're on the tracks, but they're still sitting upright right next to the track.
Right.
How's everybody getting where they need to go?
So we're going to bus folks south. Anyone that wants to stay in a hotel can stay in Vermont, but Amtrak is doing a great job of getting everybody moving. Some of the folks have family members coming to pick them up, as you can imagine. But, you know, they've been through a pretty traumatic experience, but they're doing very, very well.
Is the National Traffic Safety Board, National Transportation Safety Board involved at this point already?
They will be.
That's sure.
It's the federal government. It takes them a little time.
Has the Vermonter crashed previously, derailed previously? We've had something more recent than the Montrealer in '84, haven't we?
This is the only one that I can remember as governor where we've had a passenger train derail and injuries have resulted.
Where was the most recent stop?
So the most recent stop was Montpelier, and the next stop would have been White River, right?
Randolph.
Randolph.
So this was the Vermonter.
This was the Vermont.
Out of the 102 people, how many were treated for minor injuries?
7. Oh, for minor injuries? I don't know the answer to that.
There were 7 transported. Of the rest, they were all evaluated on scene and declined that they were injured and brought here to Plumley Armory.
Do we know if there are any Vermonters on the train?
Yes, there are definitely Vermonters on the train. Because I just met, we haven't broken it down, but I just got to say the Vermonters and the out-of-staters have been extraordinary. You know, I just spoke with 2 women from California. Plenty of Vermonters there and family members of Vermonters, so we're just grateful that that there was no loss of life.
Governor, there's been a little bit of discussion about the inadequacies of the upcoming state rail plan in terms of a lack of addressing safety issues. Do you feel this accident, the fact that it was caused by the bedrock sliding on the track, do you think there'll be a greater focus on safety in the rail plan as it's finalized?
Well, I guess I would push back on that a little bit and say we're focused on safety right now. And, the good news is that when, in the depths of the recession, when President Obama made federal money available for transportation infrastructure, Vermont and the Northeast states accepted much of the rail money that some of the governors in other states were turning down for political reasons. And the result is that the Vermonter is going to be a much higher speed rail than it would have been moving from New York City, hopefully to Montreal, with a spur to Boston. That's the vision. But this is an example of a rail track that got rebuilt with federal money. It's state-of-the-art. There's no reason to believe that the rebuilding that rail had anything to do with this accident. This really is an example of a freak of nature where ledge broke up and fell onto the tracks.
So, is someone who's really familiar with that particular area be able to say, was the engineer coming around a corner and that the ledge was right in front of him, and did it completely obscure the track? Or
So we have not had the opportunity to talk to the engineer yet, so we'd be speculating on the answer to any questions around what went through the engineer's head, what they saw when.
So where can the train customers expect to pick up the bus now to
So first of all, Amtrak will contact all passengers that have tickets to communicate with them about any transportation-related issues, but you will still go to your station, your rail station, just as you normally would have. The bus will be there at the same time the train would have been. It'll move you to the next station until we get to Springfield, Mass. We'll get the train back up and running as quickly as we can, so it's back on the tracks, but as you can imagine, we've got a mess down there, and it's going to take us time to clean it up.
So the train won't be running in Vermont, period?
The train will not be running past Springfield, Massachusetts until this problem is solved. So if you're heading south, you'll get bus to Springfield, stopping at every train station on the way. If you're heading north, you will get off in Springfield, get on the bus, and stop at every train station along the way.
Is the engineer among the injured?
I can't comment on that because we haven't been able to notify family. So
Do we know how much rock fell, how much ledge there was?
it's 5 or 6 really big chunks. Is that
Yes.
a fair way to describe it? And they're big hunks of ledge. The problem with ledge is, as we all know, it's not a particularly stable rock. It cracks. It falls. That's why we have the problems on the highway. Going back to the overall tenor of the conversation, let's just remember, when we have a transportation crash, we don't say, let's stop driving cars. We say, how do we make them safer? We'll do exactly the same with rail, but let's remember, rail is safe. The Vermonter is a great train line. It's faster than it used to be, and it'll be even faster in the future as Connecticut and Massachusetts are finishing up their upgrades of the line. We literally feel that we'll be cutting an hour off the travel time between the old rail tracks and the new rail tracks, pre-era and post-era money. And rail is important as we fight climate change, so let's not throw out the baby with the bathwater as we face this tragedy.
Just remembering the Montrealer that crashed in '84, that was a natural incident that happened overnight after the last train had gone through.
That's right.
Rainstorm.
It was a mudslide.
We talked about sensors and whether there was any way to tell until something bad happened that there was trouble ahead. Are there systems that would detect that, or is it just a witness thing from the freight train the night before?
There's not really anything that's going to detect this kind of thing.
We don't think technology, I bet it will, but we don't think technology has gotten to the point yet where it can really monitor an entire track, or if so, no one's doing it yet that I know of.
Is it correct that this set of tracks will not be equipped with positive train control until that becomes mandatory under the 2008 federal legislation?
You want to take that?
Not right now. It's not.
Excuse me?
It's not.
It's not.
It's not. Well,
It's
it
not
won't
right now.
be, right? It has an exemption.
Has an exemption.
Are there any other
Someone did their homework around here.
areas along the Vermonter line that have demolition of ledge pending, or
I can assure you of this. We will be certain that we work with our federal partners to look into the current stability of ledge along the tracks, because we don't want to go through this a second time. we all make a huge effort, spend huge federal dollars blasting ledge on our highways, so we should be doing the same on our rail tracks.
That rock was awfully soft, and there was no netting. You know how you see the netting?
Yeah.
Can you comment on that? I mean,
Well,
the engineer did a great job.
we will review the ledge situation along all the tracks, for sure. You'd have to have a pretty big net to grab those rocks. They were
You know
big.
what I'm talking
Yeah,
about, the net
the screening.
secure.
Yeah,
Did you see it?
I've seen pictures of it.
Yeah. So they'll bring in what, cranes?
So we'll
now?
bring in cranes on the track to try and move the cars. We've got to obviously deal with the diesel fuel in the brook, and then we're gonna have to rebuild the track itself where it was damaged. So this is not a 24-hour turnaround. It's gonna take us some time.
Do we know how much fuel's filling?
Undetermined at this time.
There would have been.
Governor, who do we speak to about getting down south?
Come again?
Who do we speak to get down south?
Oh, we'll take care of you. We're here to help.
Like farm.
We can get you south. We don't understand in Vermont why anyone would want to go south, but we will help you get there.
Getting cold.
Back down now.
That's the mistake you're making. You got to stick with us.
I have to say your emergency response was brilliant. It really was fantastic.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So,
Thank you. Where are you from?
Ireland.
Oh, yeah. We're glad you're here in Vermont. We'll get you home safe.
Okay, thank you.
All right, team. Anything else? All good? Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
And you've just heard from Governor Peter Shumlin speaking about the train derailment that happened earlier this morning, saying that this was an act of nature. In no way did he say that it had anything to do with negligence of the operator. A rock ledge fell overnight on tracks. The train hit it, and currently 7 people are in the hospital.
Yeah, he said the 5 or 6 big chunks, he called them hunks of ledge, so it sounds like they were pretty massive
Right.
pieces of stone. But we have WPTC's Keel Smith live from Northfield on the phone. Keel, what else can you tell us?
Yeah, I'm here. I am along at the intersection of Route 12A and Bull Run Road. That road is closed off right now. There's a couple fire trucks here that have it blocked off. Actually, an Amtrak police car pulled in just a little bit ago, went up. That's, I'm guessing, where the train actually derailed. This is as close as we can get. But he went up the road and then came back down, took a left, traveling to another part, but they are on the scene. I just saw another Amtrak vehicle as well. We've been here for well over an hour now, and many agencies are still on the scene. Police, fire trucks continue to travel up and down this stretch of road right here. Now, throughout the morning, there was probably more so a little bit ago, but many choppers are in the air, kind of taking a look from overhead, and it's still very active. It has calmed down a little bit from this morning, but you know, there's agencies everywhere you look.
Keel, have you talked to any of the passengers who had left the train? Have you caught the ear of one of them and had them tell their story of their morning?
I have not. When we arrived on the scene, the passengers were being loaded into a bus. I was able to snap a couple of pictures, but we weren't allowed to talk to them. I did speak to a neighbor who lives right near the train trestle, and she didn't hear anything. She didn't see anything, but no, we were not able to catch any of the passengers.
What is the atmosphere there like? Obviously, with the passengers must have been shaken up as they went on the bus. How about emergency crews? What is the atmosphere there on scene?
Well, everyone seems, pretty calm. It's pretty quiet right now. Again, we're at this road that is blocked off right now. Earlier, just down Route 12A a little bit, there were officials walking up on this dirt road, kind of leading to where I'm guessing the train is. They, of course, couldn't tell us anything, but that was probably the most activity. However, right now, again, it's kind of died down a little bit here in the past hour or so.
Thanks, Keel. We are hearing that the NTSB is deciding if they're going to bring investigators in to evaluate this scene. Like I said, the NTSB has not decided yet if they'll send investigators, but it is possible at this point still. A lot of unanswered questions right now, but we are starting to make sense of what happened this morning. 10:30, train did go off the tracks. People are injured, and yeah, we are continuing to monitor this as more information comes in. We have crews on the scene who are telling us what they're hearing, seeing,
Right.
Yeah.
And Governor Shumlin had mentioned that, you know, this is not a 24-hour cleanup
Right.
operation. There's a lot that goes into this. They have to get the diesel out of the nearby brook. They have to get cranes to, as you see, take those cars off the tracks before, of course, they can even start repairing them. And I remember Stu over the phone earlier this morning was talking about how this is a very densely wooded area. This is probably not very easily accessible by a person, let alone a crane. So Governor Shumlin did not give us a time frame necessarily for the cleanup, but this is going to be it just gives you the picture of the operation ahead for all the emergency crews.
Absolutely. But the governor was, you know, he reiterated several times that he was just so thankful that no one was killed.
Right.
We did learn, you know, 1984 there were lives lost in a train derailment, but that was not the case today. We have some injuries, but everything, you know, seems to be going as best it can and under these sorts of circumstances. So.
And one of the reporters there at the press conference brought up an interesting, you know, this interesting point. This rock ledge fell on the tracks overnight. No one noticed it. This is a daily train that runs, again, from St. Albans to Washington, D.C. every day, the Vermonter, and, you know, this rock ledge was not noticed until the last minute. And I think that it was also mentioned at that press conference that in 1984 was that train crash was a similar situation where there was a mudslide overnight. Nobody had noticed, and the governor and some other transportation officials today did mention that there is no system put in place yet to monitor the tracks 24/7. It didn't, from the press conference, it didn't really necessarily sound like that was even in the works. So maybe this has changed the conversation for train travel in the region and across the country.
The governor said though he couldn't speculate on what the engineer was thinking.
Right.
You know, right before this derailment happened. You can see the pictures right there. It's incredible, incredible photos. But, you know, he can't speculate on what exactly went through the engineer's head, how soon he knew, that sort of thing. So I'm sure that we'll, you know, begin to hear more information about those things as it comes in over the hours, days that we'll be, you know, following this derailment.
Right. You know, these pictures are amazing. You look at this and we know that there are 98 passengers and a lot of them senior citizens on tours. And, you know, to go through this and to, again, you know, it is a tragedy, but again, to not lose any lives here, that's, you know, what the governor was emphasizing in his press conference, that this is miraculous that, you know, we're not walking away here with lives lost. We do know that one passenger had to be airlifted to Dartmouth-Hitchcock Medical Center. They were airlifted about 2.5 hours ago. We do not know the identity of that passenger, where that passenger is from, or the extent of the injuries. But of course, that was the only passenger that had to be airlifted. The others, 6 others, were taken to Central Vermont Medical Center for just by ambulance. So again, so there is someone who, you know, worse shape than the others, unfortunately, and we wish them very well. Again, and you know, the ones who weren't even on, who didn't go to the hospital, but still shaken up, lots of nerves. I can only imagine what it was like to go through something like that.
Yeah, we saw a lot of reports on Twitter of passengers or family members of passengers who were saying, you know, we're okay, I'm okay, but just shooken up about, you know, how could you not be? Seems very reasonable.
Right, and again, we are
saying they're okay.
Right. We are talking about the train derailment that happened in Northfield earlier this morning around 10:30. The Vermonter, which is a train that leaves from St. Albans every day, goes down to Washington, D.C. It's a 13-hour, 45-minute train ride. Did derail, and we're going to toss now to our reporter Stuart Ledbetter in the field. Stu, what can you tell us now?
Who am I talking to?
Stuart, it's Vanessa and Leanne.
Seems like we have Stu. Can you hear us?
Okay, I'm Stuart Ledbetter. We're at Norwich University in Northfield, where Governor Shumlin and his public safety team has just concluded a briefing on this morning's derailment of an Amtrak passenger train, the Vermonter. It was heading south. It had left the Waterbury station, heading for Randolph and Point South with 102 people on board, 98 passengers and 4 crew. When it derailed, when it hit a rock ledge that had dislodged overnight just south of the village of Northfield. The rock ledge had given way apparently sometime during the wee hours. A freight train had gone through that same area late last night and had reported no problems. But the train apparently slammed into 5 or 6 pieces of rock described as really big chunks, said the governor, and it derailed. Essentially, the locomotive and one of the passenger cars fell down a ravine. All of the other cars at least derailed, although not all tipped over. The train was full of tourists on a vacations by rail excursion to come up to Vermont to see the foliage, although there were some Vermonters and some regular Amtrak passengers on board as well. The governor describing the situation as very, very fortunate that there was no loss of life. Of the people on board that train, a total of 7 were transported to area hospitals, 6 by ambulance to Central Vermont Medical Center, 1 by helicopter to Dartmouth Hitchcock. That person has not been identified, although a witness said it appeared to have been a crew member who was transported by helicopter. But again, the story here could have been so much worse. Harkening back to the 1984 derailment in Williston, where a handful of people died and there were 100 injuries, also due to natural causes. In this case, the rail officials and the governor saying there is no indication of negligence or of anything but just a natural occurrence with that sort of shale rock ledge that is familiar across our area, and ice gets in and weakens it, and eventually it breaks away, and that's apparently what caused this thing about 10 o'clock or so Monday morning.
Stu, thank you very much. Again, we will stay with WPTZ. We will continue to follow this train, the investigation into this train derailment all throughout the day on our website, WPTZ.com, and check back here starting at 5 for First at 5 for our on-air broadcast of the latest details.